Posted by you/throwaway09ick. My boyfriend, now fiancé, asked me to marry him 2 months ago. To give a little background, I met him at a farmer's market when I was 18 and he was 26. We are now 24F and 32M. We've been together for a little over 5 years, and I'm very happy with him. Now, to the story. My fiancé's friend, Brittany, has been friends with him since they were in elementary school. During our early dating days, I expressed that I was not a fan of this woman. There are many reasons why, such as us not having common interests and having completely opposite moral codes, but the main one was her interest in embarrassing me and my fiancé, possibly because she likes him. When we first started going on dates, she showed up and tried to invite herself to the date because he had told their mutual friend group chat where he was taking me. She then decided to go to the same restaurant and tried to make a scene about him cheating on her and being heartbroken. It escalated quickly, and I ended up asking the manager to have her removed, as she was delusional and neither I nor my date wanted her around. This kind of situation happened 3 more times, even escalating to her showing up at his grandparents' house to stop me from meeting his family. At that point, I made it clear to him that if anything like that happened again, I'd be out of there. He completely understood and agreed with me, wholeheartedly. He convinced his friend group to minimize communication about Brittany with him because she was acting weird around him, and they all understood and disagreed with her actions. He had extremely low contact after that point, and I learned years later that she had undergone major therapy, checked herself into a mental hospital, and went on medication to manage these unhinged personality traits. About 4 years later, they reconnected at a mutual friend's birthday party we were all attending, and she genuinely seemed to have changed from the person I had met 5 years ago. We still didn't agree on most things, but she apologized for the way she had acted and owned up to all the BS she tried to pull with him. So, I kept my guard up but encouraged my fiancé to rebuild his friendship with her. I'm not friends with her, but I am friendly toward her. Skipping to now, I have been planning this wedding basically since I was born, over-exaggerating, but it has been in my thoughts since I was a young child. The wedding will not happen for another 2 years. The theme is similar to Dungeons & Dragons style fantasy, a Renaissance wedding with blue, orange, and red as the main color scheme. Most of the wedding will be held outdoors at a local state park, but part of it will be held indoors, specifically for the cake cutting, food service, and some guest photos. This is the important part. I have a personal friend, Bree, 28F, who does professional photos at Renaissance festivals across the US. Her job is to travel across the country to Ren fairs, taking pictures for various venues. It's a very cool job, and I love seeing her work. She does some editing for these venues using a green screen to make the scenes more aesthetic or to change the scenery entirely. For example, she has shown me mock-ups with silly people in costumes being chased by goblins and trolls, a dragon breathing fire behind a party of knights, or a garden of lights with fairies flying around. It's silly stuff meant for fun. My idea was to incorporate this into my wedding. Guests could choose whichever background they liked from a catalog that Bree and I put together, and Bree or her teammate would take pictures of them throughout the day. The photos would be uploaded electronically and edited after the wedding. Participation in this activity would be optional, but I wanted to use the photos for postcards and scrapbooking, which is my hobby. These green screen photos wouldn't be the only pictures taken. There would also be traditional photos of the wedding itself, including portraits of my husband and me, and the wedding party, which would not use the green screen. A few days after he proposed, my fiancé asked if I would be comfortable with him inviting Brittany to the wedding as a groomswoman. Honestly, I was fine with it, until the topic of her hair came up. Since they reconnected, she cut and dyed her hair a lime green with cool undertones and highlights. I actually think it looks great on her and suits her facial structure well. However, I was worried about the green screen effect on her hair, so I invited her to my friend's home to test it. Unfortunately, the screen blended with her hair, causing a significant glitch in every background we tried. I asked Bree if there was a way to edit around it, but she said it would require a lot of extra time and money. The additional editing would be expensive because it could involve editing multiple photos, which wasn't feasible given our budget constraints. Even though I love her hair, I asked if she would consider wearing a wig at the wedding so she could still be included in the green screen photos. I even offered to pay for a professional wig. Brittany became very angry, saying that asking her to wear a wig was like asking her to cover up herself. She felt it was an attack on her expression and was hurt. I explained that it was purely a logistical issue, but she accused me of trying to exclude her intentionally. As a compromise, I suggested that she get more pictures taken during the wedding itself, without the green screen. She didn't like this idea, claiming it wasn't fair that she'd be the only guest excluded from the fun pictures. Though I sort of agreed with her, it wasn't my fault. I then offered that she pay the additional editing costs herself if she didn't want to wear a wig. At first, she seemed open to this. But when I mentioned that the extra editing would cost around $100 per picture, she became upset and said Bree's prices were ridiculous. I disagreed and haven't spoken to her since. Throughout this ordeal, my fiancé has been on my side, though he's disappointed about her potentially not being at the wedding. He agrees with me about the costs and thinks she's overreacting, but he sympathizes with her being the only one left out of this activity. While I also have sympathy, I don't see another solution. We can't use a blue screen because the wedding colors include blue, and we can't buy a new screen for my friend's business for just one person. All the alternatives I've come up with, Brittany has rejected. So, my final decision was to ask him to disinvite her from the wedding to avoid creating further drama if she did not want to wear a wig. After long discussions between us, he agreed with me and sent her a message explaining that she would be entirely disinvited but would be welcome to celebrate with us after our honeymoon had ended. They met up soon afterward, and he stayed firm on the matter, despite her crying and still refusing to do anything to address her hair. She still believes that my request comes from a place of power imbalance and that I just want to bully her, which I don't believe is true. She has a year to think it over. I can tell this situation bothers him, and I've addressed it a few times. Each time I have, he says it is for the best, as she would just ruin the photos she was in with the green screen effect and could cause us to delete hundreds of pictures purely because of her actions. I agree, but it still bothers me that I might be doing something wrong. Especially since, after this incident, her mom and dad have reached out to me to scold me for abusing my power against their daughter at one of the biggest parties she has ever been invited to. Even my friends are split on the issue, all of them having sympathy for her, but some of them are saying I'm the jerk because I won't just let her come to the wedding and have someone block her from taking any pictures with the green screen. Just to clarify, I'm not trying to force her to change her hair. I don't want her to dye it differently. I simply want her to wear a wig for the wedding, which she can remove afterward. The wedding isn't for another 2 years, so I still have time to reconsider the logistics. Am I the jerk here? Up in the comments. I will add some context to that, as I thought I made it clear, but apparently not. The activity with the green screen is open to everyone who signed up for it, mostly so I can get an accurate number of people who will have multiple pictures taken of them. I would encourage them to do it in groups, so if one person's hair is making it glitch and you have multiple people in a picture, it turns into more than just a $100 venture, it turns into thousands of dollars that I simply do not have. Bree told me that the total cost could potentially quadruple what I'm willing to pay because it would take hours to Photoshop every single picture Brittany is in. Also, I didn't mention this only because I was already typing a lot and forgot to add it, but she has more appointments booked to get her hair touched up with more green coloring over the next 2 years because of the fading that color like that does. I only recently found out this information from my fiancé before we decided to tell her about the issue. If her hair isn't green for whatever reason in a year, or if she changes her mind about not minding that she isn't allowed to be in the green screen pictures, I'm sure something could work out differently, and it wouldn't affect much at all. And many of you are saying that the easiest solution would be for her to just not be in those photos, right? This is correct, and I agree with you. The issue is that I'm being made out to be the bad guy because she doesn't want to be left out of one of the 4 big activities I have planned for the wedding. I didn't include all the other details because I wasn't trying to pile on about how badly she's taking this, as the post is already very long. But she's yelled at me, cried, called my fiancé 33 times while he was at work, and more, all because I can't change the fact that she physically cannot be in green screen pictures without ruining them, and I do not want to spend significantly more money. Update 7 days later. I honestly didn't think I'd post an update at all this year because I mostly received the confirmation I needed to know I was correct in my assumption that she'd cause more drama at the wedding than necessary, and that I would be justified in disinviting her. I try to be detailed in that post, but in this one, I'm going to be a little less detailed. Basically, 3 days ago, I was sent my post on Messenger by Brittany. She is a notorious Reddit lurker, apparently, and saw it a few hours after it was posted. It didn't even need to get multiple upvotes because she just reads the posts available in the recent category. I told her I had posted because I had a lot of inner conflict about my involvement in my fiancé's decision to disinvite her if she couldn't make some form of sacrifice, like not being in the green screen photos or wearing a wig, so she could be included. She got extremely mad at me, called me names and threatened that I'd be sued for defamation, etc. This honestly just made me realize how little she had actually changed. Of course, I showed my fiancé, and he was appalled at her actions. He said he was going to block her and did so that day, and so did I. Yesterday, I woke up to 43 missed calls from a number I did not recognize, which turned out to be from her, along with a dozen voicemails claiming that I was stealing my fiancé away from her again, that I had purposefully targeted her for just wanting to be included with everyone else, and so on. I don't know how she got my number, but I obviously blocked it. After that, I reported her to the police on the non-emergency line because I didn't know if I needed to fear for my safety. I'm really glad I did this. After my fiancé had left for work, she showed up at our home and knocked on the door. I cracked a window near the door and asked what she wanted. She said, while crying, that I needed to let her into the house because it was her right to be with my fiancé, not me. She started kicking at the door, and I told her to knock it off. Immediately, I started dialing the non-emergency police number for my nearest precinct because I knew what was happening at that moment, and I was supposed to be clocking in for work on my computer. I texted my boss, and she excused my absence for the day. As I was doing this, I kept repeating, "Go away. I called the police, and I do not want you here. You are trespassing. She was saying all kinds of things I don't wish to repeat here, but the lesser of the things she said included calling me a white racist pig. She is mixed race, and so am I, saying she was 8 months pregnant with my fiancé's baby. There's quite literally zero proof of this, including no baby bump, despite her being a fairly thin woman, screaming that she would take me to hell, trying to break my metal front door and hurting herself instead, and so on. Basically, she had a full-on meltdown. The police arrived, saw that she was trying to break my door down, and immediately put her in cuffs and sat her down. She was claiming this was her house and that she had lived there for 10 years, that I had broken in and locked her out, etc. Of course, because of her erratic behavior, I was questioned. Once I provided the real story, as well as proof that I was the owner of the home, she was taken to the police station. As far as I know, she was booked for the night and was released today. I did agree to a temporary no-contact order, and my fiancé and I are going to proceed with a permanent one. Her parents called after they heard she had been put in a holding cell and apologized profusely. Apparently, Brittany had lied to them about the extent of her actions and downplayed a lot of it. On the surface, she seemed fine and well-rounded, but mentally, she had snapped again from not taking her meds for a year. She never told her parents this and acted normally until one of her triggers reappeared, my fiancé. No, he didn't do anything wrong. She just had a major trigger when it came to him because of a deeply obsessive personality disorder. I wasn't trying to air her dirty laundry regarding her medical history in the last post, but she was diagnosed with BPD and a handful of other disorders caused by childhood trauma from her great-grandfather. She's an unhealthy person, and I regret even allowing her to think we had forgiven her for her past behavior. I'm pretty shaken from this ordeal and can't believe this was all because of a goddamn green screen and some pictures that were supposed to be silly holiday cards for the foreseeable future. This is making me rethink the idea altogether, to be honest. Maybe I'll just rent an adult bounce house because that seems more fun than green screen professional photography. Anyways, that's the update. Thanks for reading and for the advice I was given in the last post.